Right, hi guys, this is a video response to OnLive Gamer's C++ tutorials that he's been gracing us with here. So it's basically a simple calculator program that I've been building as I've been watching his tutorials here and going through and trying to understand each of the bits and pieces. And I've also been reading some other C++ online manuals and suggestions and things like that. So I'll basically just kind of take you step by step through the it's essentially, it started off as a response to his challenge in lesson 14, where he said we basically had a program that was asking the user to enter a couple bits of information and then clear the screen and start over every time, as long as you were still inside the loop that you had created. And that was basically accomplished by using the system command CLS, the same as it used to be in DOS and the same as it is still in the command line. If you want to clear the screen and put your cursor back to the top of the screen, clear everything that's on it, you just say CLS. I don't know if there's a way to do that with a C++ specific command, but for now I think it's just as well. Use CLS. I'm just going to take you step by step through each little pieces of the program, the way that I've written it out, just to it might help other people who are following the tutorials as well. Just to get it in depth before we run the program. So I'll just be brief. We have the functions that are all placed at the bottom of the program here. We've declared them, or I don't know if that's the proper vocabulary to say, but basically let the program know that we're going to be using them down at the bottom. You might notice that I've changed all of the declarations for the numbers that we're going to be using from integers to float. I did that because I added a divide function to the calculator, and sometimes when you divide numbers you're going to end up with a decimal. If you use integer, I learned that you're basically just using whole numbers. That's the nature of an integer. Basically, if you were to divide, say, 3 into 10, then what you should see is the result being 0.333 repeating. But if you're just using integer, it doesn't round up or down. It just takes the first available whole number representation of the number. So in that case, it would just show 0, which is incorrect. So I just changed all the integers to float, just to be able to use the decimal place. I don't know if that's the correct thing to do. It may be a case of using a double. There's different types of number manipulation, just ways of using variables basically, and I haven't gotten my head around it completely, but so far the float will either give me a 1 decimal place or 6 decimal places, and there's a good reason for that I haven't learned yet, but you'll see what I mean as we go. Yeah, so now we've started the main function here, and we've declared it as an integer. So at the very end of the function, we're going to need to return 0 to let the program know that it's done running, and that's that. So we've declared the character called askAgain equals y. I'll show you why I did that. It has to do with the do-while loop. I'll just jump down to the end real quick as we're going through the whole flow. We're basically going to do everything that's inside of this bracket while this condition is being met. The condition is the askAgain character is not equal to n. So as long as the askAgain character is not equal to n, everything inside of those brackets is going to keep happening. So right now it's declared as y. So as it's not n, it's going to go to do. It's going to do it at least one time. What does it do? It clears the screen with the system command. It also sets the color of the foreground and background to red background and bright white text. It's just something I thought makes it just look a little bit nicer. End line is just there to kind of make things look neat and tidy. I just like it to have kind of a nice look to the program. So end line jumps down a line. We have cout to print on the screen. Simple calculator, it's the name of the program. I've just added the / and t. What that is a way of inserting a tab into the text that you're representing on the screen. So, for instance, if you wanted to put 2 tabs next to simple calculator, there's / t just twice. / and the t will not show up. Instead, it'll just be a tab. I think the default tab spacing is 4 character widths. But you can change that as well. There's another command in C++ to change it, but I haven't bothered. I just want a little tab, end line, and end line again. Jump down 2 spaces, and then we're going to declare the float variable num1 in OnLive Gamer's program tutorials that he's been doing, he's declared them as integers, but I've already described why I've changed those to float. But here we're declaring float as declaring num1 as a float variable, declaring num2 as another float, and then the single character ask. One thing to mention about single character that bit of trouble I ran into when I was learning was that in the tutorials we've used string. We've declared string variables, and we've always kept them inside of these quotation marks. Now, I tried to do that when I declared a character, this character called ask again, and I kept getting an error. You can see the little red squiggly line underneath it. The reason there's an error is when you use characters, you have to refer to them. They're just single characters. You have to refer to them with, instead of quotation marks, just the apostrophe. So use that single little mark there. It's just one of those little things that you learn as you go. I just learned it today, so I thought I'd pass the information on. So that was a remark on character. So we've declared also a single character variable called ask. Now, cout prints the text to the screen. It's in quotation marks. Enter the first number. cin is asking the user to enter a number. That number is going to be stored in num1. Cout end line, that just hops us down a line. Then cout to the screen, we're going to write on the screen what operator would you like to apply. For the simple calculator, we can just use add, subtract, multiply, or divide. cin is asking the user to enter a single character. It's going to be stored in the character variable under the name ask. So the character that they're intended to enter is A, S, M, or D for add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Go down here, print out to the screen at your second number, and then input the number into the variable num2, and then we go say end line to jump down another line. Now we have the conditions that deal with the character that they've entered for the math operator that they would like to use. So if ask, the single character that we entered here, if the single character is equal to A, that means you want to add the two numbers that we've previously entered. So what we print on the screen is cout, show the first number that they entered, the word plus, then the second number they entered, and then the word equals, and then we're going to call this function down here, and the value that function returns is going to show up right next to number 1 plus number 2 equals. So jump down real quick to the, assuming that they entered A, let's jump down to the function goAdd. In the function goAdd, we have number 1 and number 2 that have been sent by the call to the function. They've been sent down here, and they're going to be entered under x and y respectively. And the number that function is going to return is x plus y, because this is the addition function. Likewise with go_subtract, we have go_subtract num1 and num2 would be entered into x and y. It's going to subtract x from y, or I should say it's going to subtract y from x, return that value, and anytime go_subtract is called, that's the value that would be represented here. So, for instance, if they had num1 was 10 and num2 was 5, then what would be printed on the screen after they type s is 10 minus 5 equals, and then the value that comes from this function, that would be num1, num2 is 10 and 5 respectively, x minus y is 5. It gets thrown back up here, and what it gets entered in that space is 5. So 10 minus 5 equals 5. Same applies for multiplication and division. Those are the symbols here. We have plus, minus, multiply, and divide. Those are the symbols that you use. There's a lot of other math functions that C++ is capable of doing, but those are the 4 basic ones. After it's finished doing that response for the user's input, we're going to say cout end line, just hops us down another line, again keeping it neat and tidy, and then it's going to ask the user, print on the screen, would you like to go again, y or n for yes or no. Then cin ask again. Now that's the variable that we declared all the way at the very top, and as you see it's outside of the do while loop. So at the moment, ask again, the single character is equal to y, and we're not going to get outside of this loop. It's not going to break the looping until the condition is met, where ask again is not equal to n. So if they enter n, they say, would you like to go again? They say n for no. They enter n. That means ask again is equal to n. So that's that satisfies the condition to hop outside of the while loop, the do while loop. And then the very next thing that the program runs into is return 0. That means there's nothing left to do. I just put a little comment here to say thanks to OnLiveGamer for all the tutorials, and we'll go ahead and run the program, do the fun stuff. says it's out. I've been changing a few of the text, so we have to recompile it real quickly. You see an error down here, but I don't understand actually. I don't actually know why it's sorry, over here popping out this error. Maybe somebody could tell me in the comments why that would be the case. But it does still succeed in the build, so there's no problems so far. Now, run over to the program. You see the red background and the bright white text. You can see the tab that's next to Simple Calculator here. That was the / and T that we used. We're going to enter the first number, let's say 1, 2, 3. We're going to, let's say, subtract, and we're going to subtract 50 from that. Second number, 1, 2, 3 minus 50 equals 73. We'll just take a peek real quick to see where we are in the program. We've just said, we've just entered an S, and so we've run through the condition of C out, print on the screen. First number minus the second number equals 73. First number minus the second number equals, and then the number that this function returned. And now it's the program has moved on to would you like to go again? As long as we don't enter n, as long as that character that's asking me to input right now, as long as ask again is not equal to n, we're just going to run through the program again. So if I say yes, it's going to run through again because that's not equal to n. There's the CLS that satisfies the challenge that OnLiveGamer had set. System CLS is the very beginning of the do while loop. It's hopped all the way back to the beginning, and like I said, we're not going to get out until ask again is not equal to n. As long as I should say, as long as ask again is not equal to n, we're just going to keep looping. So system CLS, reset everything. We're going to go through it again. I'll just do an example that shows you the decimal places. We're going to say 5, and we're going to divide by 7. So there you can see the decimal places. Again, if I were to have left everything instead of float, which I changed all the integers to, if I left those as integers, it's only going to show up as 0. It would say 5 divided by 7 equals 0, because an integer doesn't round off at all. Something that I learned from another tutorial. It would just display the nearest whole number. The nearest whole number in this case is 0, which would be incorrect. So that's the reason that I changed to float. So it's something to experiment with and research and try out. So we'd like to go again. I'll say no. That gets us out of the program because that's this stage here. As long as ask again is not equal to n, that's the one thing you can't enter to stay in the loop. We entered n, it sent us out of the loop and returned 0 to the main function. That means everything's over. So thanks again, OnLiveGamer. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope this was helpful and informative, and keep up the great work. So thanks again.